In this video, I provide information on James Cook University's Master of Psychology clinical program that you probably want to know but couldn't find on the website. Let's talk about intakes and the application window. So there's only one intake every year, that's in February, and the application window is from June to October the year prior. All applications are only assessed after the application window closes in October, and successful candidates will be shortlisted and asked to come down for an interview in December. Usually, only about 20 to 25 applicants are shortlisted during this phase. Moving on to the entry requirements, your qualification needs to meet the Australian Qualification Framework Level 8 or the equivalent of a bachelor's degree with honours under the Australian system. And there's also a grade requirement, so you need to achieve at least a Class 1 or Class 2A honours. In the Singapore system, I believe this would be a first class or second class upper. If you have a non-Australian degree, you need to get your qualifications assessed for equivalence by the Australian Psychological Society. I've left the link in the description. This assessment applies to all non-Australian degrees. So even if you graduated from NUS, NTU or SMU, you will still need to get your qualifications assessed. The important thing here is to make sure you have met the grade requirements because the assessment costs about 700 Aussie dollars and it will take about 8 weeks by snail mail. So you don't want to be out of $700 or so and the time wasted waiting for these results. So my personal advice is don't submit an assessment unless you have met the grades. Let's talk about recognition next. In a statement by the Ministry of Health, they have confirmed that the Master of Psychology clinical offered by James Cook University is recognized for those seeking employment as a clinical psychologist in our public health institutions. Regarding the cohort size, we are looking at about 12 students for the entire year. Yes, I realize it's a really small number, but it's still limited by the number of placements we can secure. Entry into this program is really competitive. We are looking at about 55 to 60 applicants per intake vying for that 12 spots. The key thing to remember here is there is no minimum amount of work experience required. What the selection committee is looking out for are people who have successful experience in dealing with disadvantaged groups. So if you have worked as a research assistant, the selection committee is not too interested in the number crunching experience that you have. Rather, they are more interested in the face-to-face component of your job. Some examples of disadvantaged groups include migrant workers or people with special needs. It's not about clocking hours, and both full-time and part-time work as well as voluntary work experience will be considered. So this course is run as a workshop format, meaning there are no exams, and while there are still didactic lecture style kind of sessions, the emphasis of the program is very hands-on, so there will be a lot of practical sessions while you're in the workshop. Although there are no exams, there will still be in-class tests and written essays that students will need to submit. And when it comes to the final 2 trimesters of the course, students will be spending 3 days on placement and 2 days on campus for learning. The program will really focus on CBT because it's evidence-based, and it's also in consultation with employers who have informed us that they really want graduates who are competent in CBT. So let's talk about placements now. Placements will be sourced by the university itself and assigned to students. Of course, we will do our best to align the interests of the student with the organization that we place them into. So some of the placement sites include hospitals like KKH, SGH and NUH. We also work with the Institute of Mental Health. Besides the hospitals, we also work with family welfare services and special needs schools. Alright, let's talk about money. Unfortunately, there's no financial assistance for this program unless you're already employed as an associate psychologist under the Early Intervention Program for Infants and Children or in a special needs program, in which case you can check out the VCF Professional Capability Grant by the National Council of Social Services. I'll leave the link in the description below. And that should pretty much cover the questions that most people have that they can't find on the website. If you'd like to learn more, I've actually left a link to a course preview in the description below. It's a recorded webinar, so you can watch it at your own time and convenience. It's by Professor Nigel Marsh, our Professor for Clinical Psychology. He talks about clinical psychology in the first half of his preview and then goes into detail for the course itself. And then there's a Q&A session where he spends about 30 to 40 minutes just answering a whole bunch of questions, which I've pretty much summarized in this video.